Well, I'm gonna pop in here. I don't know if everyone's got their sound turned off and just enjoying the view, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about Apple. I don't know if you watched Merrick Garland and the Justice Department press conference today. They didn't take a lot of questions, but they sort of laid out their case. So I think it's an interesting question to ask. Do you think the Justice Department should do something, or do you think that, hang on a second, Apple is just that good? They were just good at setting up their business, and now you want to tear them down just because they beat everybody. I'm sort of two minds on that one, but leaning more towards, the Justice Department being right on that one. Before we start, I thought maybe you might like a full view of the view I have. Well, let's see what we can do here. We'll just sort of walk out here. And let's start at the very far left of me. There we go. That is the left. I don't know if you can see through the window over there at the other end of the house. But when I walk out here, this is what I have. I'll give you a full 180 of it. We're almost back at the sunset now. There's the sunset. That's the view you have every night, and we'll just keep going all the way around. There you go. Big mountains in the distance over there. And we'll keep coming around. You can see the pool over there. We'll get a little bit closer. By the way, if you're wondering the length of that pool, it is 57 feet long. And there, that's the full 180 view. Well, actually, it's a little bit more than 180. And I don't know if we can see down there. You see that ledge down there? That's a whole green area. And if you go down one more level, those are the stables. And by the way, this is really interesting. I don't know if you can see that down there. Those are vines growing on the across the top of all of those. You see the ladder down there. My groundskeeper has been pruning the vines, and they are now all growing grapes. And that thing keeps going on. So I got a vineyard happening just down there. And then that big open space you see down there, that's for the horses to run in. And then the property in front, I own all of that. And over here, see all the tree area all the way out to that White House? I own that too. So no one can build beside me, and no one can build in front of me. A little selfish, aren't I? So I'll put you back so you can watch the rest of the sunset. And that looks like about the right angle there. I think it's going to be nice tonight because you have just enough sky and some nice cloud cover. So the colors will be bright tonight. Anyways, for those who missed the press conference from the Justice Department, it's on YouTube. It's a pretty big case. It's the Attorney General, the District of New Jersey, Attorney General and District of New Jersey, plus 15 others. And their case is that it's not that Apple was that much better than anybody else. It's that Apple just excluded everybody else. And they gave a bunch of examples where they exclude things, that if you're messaging from a non-iPhone to an iPhone, you have limited capability. They talked about grainy pictures and really grainy video. It wasn't as good as, if you were iPhone to iPhone. That wasn't just a limitation with the other phone. That was Apple purposely giving the iPhone user a negative experience about a non-iPhone phone. Because the user would say, my God, you got to get an iPhone. Your phone sucks. And it wasn't because the other phone sucked. iPhone purposely did that, or Apple purposely did that. The one that I sided with the most was the 30% when you have an app. Now, if you put an app on the App Store and you allow it to be downloaded for free, which our company did, markmeldrum.com, we have an app. It's free. It can be downloaded for free. We had one hell of a time with the in-app purchases. We didn't want to put in-app purchases. We just wanted it to be for offline viewing for subscribers. And we had to do some dancing around on this one and limit the amount of functionality we provide, because Apple said you must put the subscription inside the app for purchase. And then they would take 30% of our success. So if you were going to run $100,000 in subscriptions through for a small business, that's a sizable amount of income, Apple would take $30,000 off the top. Now I want you to think about a business that does $10 million a year. Apple's taking $3 million. And you cannot not use the App Store. You can't get on the iPhone unless you get through the App Store, and Apple holds a knife to your throat and says, we want 30% of your success. Now, you owning an iPhone can only download apps that Apple deems appropriate, that Apple says, we'll let you use these apps. Yes, there's a company out there that has an app. They don't want to give us 30% of their success, so you cannot have it. Yes, you paid $1,500 for this piece of hardware. Yes, you own the hardware, but we control everything. We control what you can and cannot do with it. That's where I think the Justice Department has something, is that you've bought this device from Apple at not a cheap price, and it is yours to do what you want with. You can give it away, you can throw it out, you can paint it all sorts of colors you want, but you are not free to use it the way you choose to use it. So you're not really buying the phone from Apple at that point. You're sort of just renting it until their next operating system slows down your processor, slows down your phone, drains your battery. Apple's been known to do that. I think the Justice Department has a case. Apple has been tested before on this one. They have been tested because of their App Store. They have been tested because of the 30%. They have been tested because of developers and the way they lock people in. They have been caught before slowing down processors and draining batteries on purpose. This is not going to be, I think, an easy win for Apple. So I think that this is big. You start losing some of those revenue streams that Apple has because of that ecosystem, because of their, well, let's just say it, they are exclusionary, because of their exclusion. You start losing some of those revenue streams. You can take billions off their net income, not just the revenue, off their net income. So I don't think Apple is going to be hitting any new 52-week highs for quite some time. This is going to take some time to digest on this one. One of the statements Merrick Garland made, somebody had asked, last time you went up against Apple, Apple beat you. Or it wasn't beat them. It was the game company, Fortnite, that Apple won. What makes you think that you can win? And his answer was just gangster. He says, the United States doesn't lose. And that was it. The United States doesn't lose. Boom. Apple took a hit today. Went down $6, $7. I don't know. I don't have any Apple. I used to. External in Canada, when I had an external manager, I did have an Apple position. But the funds I'm in now, I think are value, and there's I forget what they are, but I don't think I have exposure to those big 5 or 6 stocks, or if I do, it's very minimal exposure. And they seem to all be having, other than Nvidia doesn't look like it has a lot of appetite above 920, 930. Even Bitcoin is looking a little tired. Gold today tried 22, clawed the 2200 level for a bit, and then pushed it right back down. I think last I saw it was 2186, back under 22. So let's see what some people say about this. What iPhone do you have? I have the latest one, and the Pro. I bought it in Canada. I think I paid $1,500 or $1,600. No, sorry. I think I paid $2,000. After all taxes were in, I paid $2,000 for the phone I have. But I needed it for down here. Down here, they're $2,100 US. I paid all in 2,000 Canadian, which saved me about $800 from buying it here, which basically made my flight free, just by buying my iPhone when I was back in Canada. I'm not too put out about being an iPhone owner and the apps being controlled. I'm not too put out about that. I am upset about not having the ability, when we put our app up, not having the ability to put all the functionality in we wanted, because Apple wanted 30% of our success. And we were not charging the kind of prices that Kaplan does, where we can afford to give away 30% without a problem. We can't afford to give away 30% because we price our product based on what it costs us to deliver, not based on the value that you extract. So we're a cost plus, or I say we were a cost plus company. To suddenly lose 30% of your revenue, it was like, you gotta have an app. You can't ignore the iPhone. You have to be out there. You have to keep up with technology. You have to meet the user where they are and satisfy their needs. But at the same time, come on, Apple, come on, you're crushing. And how many other businesses did they crush? How many apps never made it to the App Store because that 30% was just a bit too far? I have an idea for an app. It's kind of a neat app that has this really great functionality behind it. It's kind of like a Trojan horse functionality where the user doesn't even recognize the real functionality. It's not in an insidious way, it's in a fun way. But it has a bit of a raunchy feature, one little raunchy feature. The problem with Apple being such a woke organization is it's doubtful they would ever let that on the App Store, which means it's doubtful they would ever let you choose what you would like to use. Apple will decide for you whether or not this is appropriate for you. They won't let you decide. They won't let the market decide. That's the one sort of hiccup with this app, is how do you get it on the App Store? Now, the process is this. Apple says, you go ahead and build it, and we'll give you an assessment. My answer is, it's $1 million to build. Why don't you tell me if you would allow this feature before I go building it? Doesn't work that way. So you got to spend $1 million to develop an app, only to find out that Apple says, we don't like this feature. We don't like it, so we don't want anybody to see it. Apple then inserts itself into the social argument, into not just protecting its ecosystem. And it has done this before. It has declined apps because it feels that, oh no, we don't like that. So it does engage in some form of social engineering by controlling the app that can be on your phone. I don't know how you feel about that. Look at that sky. Look at that. If you took a picture of that, that is a beautiful oil painting right there, don't you think? I knew it would be nice tonight, just the way the cloud cover was hanging. And as soon as the sun dips down across the, gets even with the Pacific, it's going to just bounce right off the Pacific and reflect right onto those clouds. And just look at the red. That whole sky is going to get pink and orange, nice burnt orange, maybe a little red in there. Yeah. The sunsets are always nice when you got a little bit of cloud cover like that. Apple would be nothing without the apps on their store. Well, I don't know if, I think you have a point here. I think the point you're making, and I think you can make this even with Android and even with any computer system, is it is nothing without the applications. Any computer system is nothing without the applications. So you're right. It would just be a mobile device with a phone feature, but it wouldn't be a productivity tool. It wouldn't be an entertainment tool. It wouldn't be, a social news tool where everybody can be a reporter on the scene. It wouldn't be that without the ecosystem of developers developing apps. The hardware is only as good as the functionality it provides. And hardware in itself is boring and inert. It comes to life with the applications or with the apps. Now, maybe you meant it in the sense that if they didn't control the App Store the way they do, if they didn't grab that 30% of everything that went through the App Store, that Apple would not be where it is. See, that's an interesting question to ponder. If I can make a lot of money taking 30% of your success, and I'm doing well by taking 30% of your success, I don't really have to try that hard to generate new ideas. This is a pretty good one. So the question would be, if it didn't have the revenue from the App Store, this is a company that wants to succeed, that wants to win, what else would it have introduced to the market? If it didn't lock you in to their phone, if it didn't lock you into their system, how much more functionality would the phone have to demonstrate that it's not just that you're not just locked in and everyone's locked out, but they are just that much better than everyone else? So you can look at that both ways, that the cash cow that is the App Store has perhaps limited their hunger to explore other things, or limited their willingness to push the features of the phone even further and make more money on that. You could argue that, right? Why do you not get the iPhone with the contract? Well, because I needed it for Costa Rica. So I needed an unlocked piece of hardware. So I bought it in Canada, brought it down here. I need my Canadian phone, so I can't switch my Canadian iPhone here because I need it because of Interactive Brokers. I still log in and it sends me a code on the phone, and you have to, authenticate on the phone. Well, it's not going to do that to a different number, so I got to keep the same number. Would you reach those people without the iPhone, which Apple created? Well, that's the other side of the argument, is Apple created this. If it wasn't for Apple, you wouldn't reach any of those people. Okay, let's try that in a different technology. RCA, for the longest time, dominated television. TV sets. If you went to buy a TV set, it was 60s, 70s, it was predominantly RCA. RCA dominated. What if when you bought your RCA television, you got it home, you turned on a certain TV show and RCA blocked it saying, we don't like this TV show, so nobody's going to watch it? What if you were a studio making TV shows and you had to first pitch it to RCA for it to be on the TV set in people's homes? And RCA would say, we have TV sets in 73% of US houses. You will give us 30% of your advertising revenue, or that household will not see your TV show. And you bought the TV, you don't get to watch what you want to watch. You get to watch whatever we say you get to watch based on who's going to pay us. Would you still agree that that would be fair? Yes, RCA, dominated the industry at that time. But would you have accepted those terms? All right. What if you buy a car? You buy your Tesla, and you're listening to the radio, but the one radio station you want, Tesla says, this radio station won't pay us any money for being in the vehicle, so we disallow it. It's your favorite radio station, and they disallow it. And you say, but I bought the car. I bought the car with the radio. I own this. Yeah, but we'll tell you what you get to listen to. If they're going to pay us, you can listen to it. And if you try to use your iPhone in your car to access the online radio station you want, we'll have some technology in the car that detects that you're doing that, and we'll shut you down there as well. Would you accept that? Would you accept a car that the car company then decides if a radio station's not going to pay 30% of its revenues, 30% of its advertising revenues to GM or to Tesla or to Ford, that you just don't get to listen to that station? Or you're driving your GM, you're out of gas, you pull into a Chevron station, but Chevron doesn't pay GM a rebate, so GM detects that you're at a Chevron station and will not open up the gas tank for you. You won't let you fill up there because they're not part of the GM ecosystem. Sorry, but you don't have that choice. How would that be? I think these are about the same thing, really. Sometimes it's if we have trouble seeing something, if we take it to another example or use a different type of an argument by analogy, it kind of clears things up for us a bit. Would any of you accept any of those? I'm not sure that you would. Okay, well, maybe I don't see much. Interest in having a conversation about Apple. Okay, that's fine. I thought it was interesting today. It's consequential, I think. For those of you who listen to the All In podcast, it drops tomorrow. I hope they have a conversation about this. I'd be interested to get Sachs's take on this one and what he thinks about that. I'd be very interested to get his take on that, and see which side they land on. I'm sure all of them, at one point or another, had to deal with Apple whether through themselves or through one of their portfolio companies, had to deal with Apple at some point. I am really looking forward to that one. Now, I don't know when they record it, because this just happened today. I don't know if they record it Wednesday and then they edit it and then get it ready for Friday. That would be a shame to miss this one. Or if they did, maybe they'll, redo one section just to get this part in. But I'm really interested to get their take on that. All In podcast is fire. All In podcast is great. I like it. It's just the right group of people, and it's the right blend. I mean, I have I have my favorites and my least favorites, but I enjoy listening to them. When it gets onto world affairs and politics, it's like, well, I'm not that into it. But when they talk about what they know, when they talk about their own space, yeah, I mean, the insight that you get from these guys is incredible. It's incredible. Look at that beautiful sky. Look at the blue and that nice little ribbon at the bottom. Looking good tonight. What do you? I already saw that one. Okay, let's look at what else we had. There was a comment yesterday which I thought was a good comment. It was a critical comment. By the way, I'm not against critical comments. I'm against rude comments, but I'm not against critical comments. The comment was that this what I do here could do with a bit more structure. Have a topic or have a couple of topics and stick with them instead of being all over the place. And I thought about that today, and I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. That's why I thought, well, let's do the Apple thing. But it does make a lot of sense to have a topic and stick with it. And I do like these sunset talks because this is usually the time of day where I'm just sick and tired of doing screens and narrating and making notes. It's usually the time of day where I like to just sit and unwind with coffee and just watch the sunset. And I think I can't think of a better way to spend the sunset than to talk about stuff I like talking about. So maybe, you know, do it on a more regular basis and say, well, Monday night will be all about CFA. Nothing, I won't answer any other question outside of CFA. Tuesday night will be all about the market. I won't answer any questions outside of the market. And maybe, I don't know, one other night will be more about, you know, my views on, or not just my views, I don't think mine are that important, but I do have, I'm well read enough in philosophy that if we want to talk about poetry or literature or philosophy or politics or something more social, it could be one of those open nights that's not, you know, about CFA or markets. And then, of course, the sunset. This is, by the way, what I'm showing you here, and the view of all the houses I looked at, and I think I looked at 25 or 30 houses on, in the valley, on the mountain, some even higher up in the mountain. The higher you go, the worse it gets to live in, though, for a number of reasons. But the worse it gets to live in. This one had the single best view. Period. It had the best view. I'm not that pleased with the seller. I had certain expectations that I was dealing with somebody on my level, and I was not. But every time I come out here and I sit here and I look out, all of that just melts away. None of that bothers me anymore. I look at this and I think, I couldn't find this anywhere else. I mean, this is what I have every night. Every night. What's that worth? Even if you just owned the land and you lived in a tent, just look at that. What's that worth alone? Somebody had said and asked what this property would be in Canada or in the U.S. Rather than here, but just this alone, right? Never mind the house or anything like that. Just to be able to have this every night, and a 180-degree view of just mountains. And at night, once the cicadas are done complaining about the sunset, all you hear are crickets. No cars, no neighbors, No motorbikes up and down the street. No neighbor with that basketball net outside where you hear that basketball bouncing all day long. Oh, that's got to be the worst thing in the neighborhood is to live beside a house that decides to put up a basketball net in their driveway. None of that. Oh, by the way, I think on either, what have I got? I got somebody coming tomorrow night from Canada. They're down visiting Costa Rica. So they're gonna come out to the house tomorrow night. And I think there were 2 more that are coming down to visit, or they just happen to be on vacation, or they had planned a vacation in Costa Rica. If you're ever in Costa Rica, in the San Jose area, hit me up. Come on out. Come on out to the house, and we'll hang out, or we'll go out for dinner, or do something. I'm always up to meeting people from the CFA community. So yeah, somebody tomorrow night. I think they're with one of the banks in Canada. I'm gonna see if they have any information about earnings. So how's your earnings gonna be this quarter? See if they slip up. Always an angle, eh? Always an angle. Are the guests bringing maple syrup? That's the deal. If I invite you out and I say, well, you can stay at the house, I'm sorry, but you must bring 1 liter of maple syrup. It'll put you back $14-15 for a good liter of amber maple syrup in Canada, because heck, we got a ton of maple syrup. We got lots of that. But that's the deal, man. That's non-negotiable too. You show up here, you don't have maple syrup, I will call you an Uber. We'll get you a hotel, but you're not staying here. Not. You should see. If I have the guts, I'll walk you into my pantry and I'll show you the maple syrup shelf and how much maple syrup I have. And it's not enough. I'm telling you right now, it's just not enough. I could sell that stuff down here for 4 times more than what it costs in Canada. Half of it costs somewhere around, I think it's almost $20 US for half. So what's that, 27 Canadian? So that's $54 for the equivalent of what's $14 in Canada, if I put it on the same currency. I think Saturday or Sunday, when I do the live stream, we're gonna read The Raven. I thought of doing just a separate video for The Raven, then I thought, but why? Why? The Raven with a sunset in the background, like this kind of sunset right now, I think sets the tone, because The Raven takes place after the sun goes down. The Raven takes place at night. Does anybody know what time it takes place at? What time does The Raven take place at in the poem? There's a trivia question for you. I live in Boston, I can bring lobster for you. I doubt they'll let you through customs with seafood. I doubt they'll let you through customs with that. They won't let you through customs with meat, nuts, vegetables. You can't bring organics like that in. Yeah, so you'd have to fly it in, and you'd have to get it through customs. You'd have to make, and if you're getting it through customs, label it as something else, because it'll never get here. It'll disappear. It'll just disappear. Yeah. All right, I said I'd answer some questions here. I forget if I said that I would answer market questions or CFA questions here, but I'm going to try to stick with one theme. Somebody's asking, where was this picture taken? That's on the screen right now. That's not a picture. Let me move the camera around for you here. That's not a picture. That's my view from my outside. I don't know what would you'd call this. It's an outside lounge, but that's my view. It's not a picture. That's the sunset. Those mountains. This is Costa Rica. Those are the mountains to the I'm to the southeast of San Jose, facing west, facing the Pacific. Those, if you travel far enough west over those mountains, you will hit the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, let's see if we can get the rest of that in there. Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't I answer some CFA questions here, and I'll work my way from the bottom of the list upwards. Emotional support lobster. That's funny. Please let us know, is 50 days good to review for the level 2 exam and mocks? 50 days is a lot. I don't think you need 50 days to review unless this is your second or third time. I think you really need 28 days to review, so you have time to, pick up a few sections that are a little bit weak. But when you start reviewing, so when you're going through the content, you're in the learning phase, and learning requires cognitive energy. It takes time to learn. You can't exceed your brain speed limit when you're learning. When you're reviewing, that's the consolidation phase. That goes much faster than the learning phase. So if you say, well, it took me 4 months to learn everything and now I've forgotten quite a bit of it, you will remember it very quickly when you start reviewing it, because you've already done the learning phase. You've already done the hard work. Your brain will remember it. You just need to remind yourself. So when you're reviewing, you're consolidating all of that knowledge that in the learning phase is sitting here and there and here as a bunch of disjointed facts and information, and you can't quite see how it all comes together. That's why the review is so important, because when you consolidate, it fills in, these holes in your knowledge, that Swiss cheese knowledge that you have, where you have a hole here and a hole there. As you start consolidating, you start seeing how the things connect to each other. And you say, oh, okay, now I see what I was missing. It's critical that you have the consolidation period before the exam. Don't give that up. 28 days, I think, is a good amount of time for that. C of A has decreased number of available practice questions and made practice pack. What would you suggest to prepare for quantitative methods, level 1 questions? So I believe their practice pack is a good deal. I think you get a number of questions. You get 6 mock exams, and you get the PDFs. Maybe you don't need the PDFs, but you get the PDFs. But I think the practice pack is a good deal for $2.99. I mean, you have some prep providers out there that want to sell one exam for $100. That is not worth the money. I'll tell you that right now. Buying one exam for one, I don't care what level 1, level 2, level 3. If you're paying $100 for an exam, well, then you're the trade. Somebody's trading you. Yeah, you don't have to do that. So the $300 for six exams and a question pack, I think it's a good deal. When you say they've decreased the number of questions, it could be that they've just gone through their question bank and deleted the questions that are now obsolete, because the content has changed so much over the years. CFAI was known for having questions in their question bank that, wait a minute now, this learning objective is gone, but you still have the question. I think maybe they've just gone through and eliminated some of that stuff. Let's find another one here. Already answered that one. CFA level 3 and FRM part 2 candidate. No FT experience, only internship experience and credit risk. What do you suggest I do to make sure I land a job before graduation? So on these types of questions, as I've said before, I am far removed from the job market. I really don't know what employers look for anymore. And given that many companies are buying into these quotas, I really don't even I don't even know how I would advise anybody today. I just don't know. I am glad that I don't have to go through it. I'm glad that I'm not graduating in this environment and having to go through that. I'm glad that I'm on the other side of it now. Graduating from an MSF degree in less than 2 months. Do not have a role yet. Be networking, attending GARP Charter, CFA Society networking events. No luck. That's so far. So this reminds me of one of the poems I did for New Year's Day, a Psalm of Life, the very last stanza. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate. And the last line was learn love to labor and to wait, or learn to labor and to wait, meaning be patient. Put in the effort, put in the work, but be patient. That's what that last line was meant to say, is that it'll work out. It'll come to you. Just keep doing what you're doing and be patient. You're not going to change things in a day. You're not going to, start doing work and then decide, well, it's been 2 days. How come I'm not CEO, right? You just have to be patient. Keep putting in the time. Keep sticking to the plan, right? Let's see. Any advice to reduce the mental fatigue while preparing for level 2? Well, I do know what that is. I mean, I get mentally fatigued, let me tell you. That's why I like coming out here for a couple hours at the end of each day. Usually by 5 o'clock, 4:35, I've just had it. I can't write another word. I can't read another word. I'm just done. And it's important that you give yourself a break. You have to, and you have to recharge, whatever it is that you like to do. I would also try to avoid, that last hour before you go to sleep, doing any kind of real deep cognitive work, because you're not going to sleep well. I would try to avoid that in that last hour. So if you can do that, carve out some time for yourself where you're not just leaving one task and going to another task. You're just leaving all tasks, and for an hour or hour and a half or 2 hours, you're just going to be you without any guilt. You're going to do absolutely nothing without any guilt, right? And that could be your reward. You put in a good day and you say, I've earned my 2 hours, of whatever it is, eating popcorn in front of a movie screen, if that's what you want to do for 2 hours, playing video games for 2 hours with no guilt. You have to carve out that time for yourself, or you will burn out. And if you try working when you're burnt out, nothing. All you do is get frustrated, and you're not doing your best work, and you're not going to do your best work. You got to have a break. I don't see any more CFA questions up here as I'm scrolling up. Okay, let's go back down. I'm struggling with the reading from CFA 1. Should I watch your videos first, then go to the book? Well, yeah, if you're struggling with the reading, let me say a word on that. And here I'm going to be critical. Over the last, I'd say 10 years, the academic rigor of the writing has gone straight down. There was a time when you could open those books to a page that had some technical, complex detail on it, but it was written as a teaching book. You could actually read it and say, okay, I get it, I get it. And every now and then you might get frustrated going, well, hang on, I got more questions though. Now it's not like that. Now there is almost no effort in explaining what the author is saying. The author simply tells you something. And there is no explanation of why. The author's just telling you something. So you don't know how to know what the author knows. You just know to remember it. It's like, well, I guess I got to remember it because you're not telling me how I can internalize it and know it myself. It has gotten less academically, I wouldn't say rigorous, but less academically inclined. There's a difference when you're writing for reading versus writing for learning. When you're writing for learning, you have to uncover all your hidden assumptions. And sometimes a paragraph, the difference between a paragraph being a frustrating paragraph that you can't understand and one that illuminates is one sentence. That is your hidden assumption, or the assumption that you felt that you, because you knew it so well, you thought, well, I don't need to say this. This is obvious. It's obvious to you if you're telling people what you know, but it's not obvious to people if they're trying to learn what you know. That is sorely missing with the CFA material now. And each year it just gets worse. I'm going through the level 3 private markets readings, and it is, you know, you read something, you shake your head, you go, okay, first of all, I know a lot about this one thing that you're talking about, and what you've just said is maybe about 20% of what you need to say. The missing 80% that you're not talking about is extremely misleading by not presenting it. Now I have to think, well, how can I ask a question? How can I write a question about this topic that only relies on you knowing 20% of what really is going on? Well, that's a very difficult task to do. I have to write a question that is extremely dumbed down. And it does you no favors because you don't know what you don't know. And as you're reading it, you think, okay, I know what you're talking about because I know what you're talking about. But if I didn't know what you were talking about, I wouldn't know what you were talking about because you're taking no time to explain to me why these sentences are the way they are. You're just telling me. Too much of that. Way too much of that. That's getting really tiring and frustrating. So if you are having trouble reading the CFAI reading, you are not alone. So yes, I would recommend watch the video first and then go back and read it. And when you do read it after watching the video, say, okay, you know, maybe just put a sentence down next time that says that, and you'll see that how one sentence could change everything. Just put one extra sentence down. But you need a teacher. You need somebody with years of time in a classroom to be a writer of a textbook. Because in writing the textbook, you have to anticipate what the questions are going to be. You cannot do that unless you've had experience in the classroom, lots of experience, so that you answer all the questions in your writing before they even become questions. Anything less than that is just telling people what you know, and that is unsatisfying because that doesn't tell me how to know it, it just tells me what you know. Let's see. Shed some light on how the review process should be for level 2. Well, you already know the answer for that. You've done level 1, you're at level 2, so whatever made you successful at level 1, do that. Also, you have some undergraduate experience. You've done some final exams where you've had to study for a final exam and you've gotten grades and you passed those. So whatever made you successful at that. So it's, you know, it's a lot of stuff, the process of what you already know. This is not your first dance, right? So you should be very familiar with the process of getting ready for an exam. And everybody is, I wouldn't say everybody's different, but there are different ways of approaching this that appeal to different people, right? Anyways, we're getting dark over here, so I don't want this to go on for another 2-3 hours. We will leave it here, and it'll either be Saturday or Sunday, but we are going to do a nice reading of the Raven, try to understand the Raven, and what is so scary about this freaking poem, A Talking Raven. Heck, that's not scary, but this poem is terrifying. If we put it in the right light, this poem is absolutely terrifying. Okay, I will, before you head, can you say what undergrad degrees you have? I have 3. I have a computer science degree. I did that last. I have a undergrad in, I guess you'd say the economics is the first one. The second one is just a continuation of the first, but I just changed majors and you get a whole new degree. It's accounting and finance. So economics first. That doesn't really lead anywhere unless you're willing to do a PhD or at least a master's in economics. And it was like, nah, I'm not that sold on this. Let's go to accounting and finance, and you do a number of courses there and you get another degree. And then I did an MBA. Then I did the Bachelor of Computer Science, then PhD, in that order. All right. That's it. I'm going to hit end. Ciao.